today's topic is how we can get creative with meditation when we're really busy and really like too busy. We feel that we're too busy to meditate, right? Whether or not we are, that's up to us to figure out. But we're going to kind of talk about how we can turn some of our normal daily activities into a meditative practice, right? It kind of helps us if we're feeling a little stressed out about time management, right? We might be able to find that some of the things that we're already doing can be really helpful in terms of making them into a meditation practice. Oh, Sue, thanks for the reminder. Okay, so if you're here and you didn't see what I chatted earlier, today's meditation is going to be a fun one. And it involves taking a sip of water, right? Or tea or something like that. I can't tell what you're drinking, so that's fine. But if you could get a glass of water or something, it doesn't need to be like a gallon, just a little bit is totally fine. For later, when we start to do this meditation, that'll be good. And some people who are here right now, if I do not remind anyone who trickles in late to do that, remind me when we're about to start talking about this to remind them to get water. Thank you. And so if you are new, definitely ask me questions throughout this. That's really what I love about this format, is it allows you to try something new and then ask questions in real time. Am I doing this right? I don't understand that. That doesn't make sense to me. This is one of the benefits of live stream, especially with something like meditation that it trickles in. It's a good one. Especially something with like meditation that is probably pretty new, a new endeavor for a lot of us. There's probably gonna be a lot of questions, as there should be, right? So feel free to ask me anything at any time. And if you think of something after this is over, or you're not comfortable chatting, I'll put my email in the chat later, and I'll say it too. And you can email me any questions that you have at any time. If I'm sleeping, I'll answer them when I get up, but I'll do my best to be timely about it. Okay, so what is meditation? Let's start there for anyone that's new, right? And then we'll get into our topic. So meditation is a method of training your mind to become familiar with something. I don't know, it's a weird definition, right? But meditation is all about familiarity, right? And we can see what happens when we start to become familiar with things. So right now, I like to use the example of driving because, a lot of us probably drive pretty regularly. If I were to say, go drive down the street to the store, you'd be like, okay, and you would just drive. You don't have to think about all the mechanics of driving. Driving comes natural to you because driving is familiar to your mind and to your body, right? There's a connection between yourself and driving that you understand. You know how to do it, right? So meditation is all about training your mind to become familiar with certain emotions, certain feelings, right? Like gratitude, peacefulness, all these like kindness, right? Patience, well, it's a big one, right? All these wonderful feelings, emotions, we can cultivate them. We can cultivate our mind to become familiar with them so that they come as naturally to us as driving does, right? That's what meditation does for us. So I like to use the example of anger because this is a really, I think it's a really stark example, right? If I were to ask you, how easy is it to become angry, right? You could be walking down the street, best day ever. Somebody says something to you you don't like, boom, angry. You don't have to try to be angry, right? Anger comes quite natural. What about patience? Patience is the enemy of anger. Patience does not come natural, at least to me, probably to a lot of people, to most people, because we're a little more familiar with getting angry than we are being patient, right? So we're going to try to tilt the scales. That's what we're doing with meditation. We're tilting the scales in the favor of these awesome feelings and emotions and positive reactions and positive outlooks. And then the other ones are going to start to fade away a little bit, right? So there's kind of like two steps to meditation. One is learning how to relax, because when our mind is super busy, it's not good at becoming familiar with new things. It's all over the place, right? It seems like our mind is kind of out of control and we're just along for the ride, right? So we have to learn how to relax our mind. Then once we have relaxed our mind, we want to use this calm, relaxed mind to learn, to do something productive, to investigate something, to become familiar with something we want to become familiar with. So it's like a two-step process. And the example I love using is if you imagine a still lake, very calm, very peaceful, you can see the reflection in this lake. If I were to ask you to describe it, you could. If it starts to rain, it would become increasingly more difficult to describe the reflection in the lake, right? And if it's downpouring, you might not be able to describe this reflection at all. This is our mind. Our mind is normally a still, calm lake, very peaceful, very reasonable, very kind, very, very tranquil, right? All of the stress, anxiety, the distractions, the things bouncing around in our head all day long, they're like raindrops falling on the lake. And they're making it hard for us to access this peaceful, calm state. So we have to start to remove some of these raindrops to clear a little bit of them away. We don't have to do all of them, but we can start to clear some of them away. We can start to relax our mind a little bit. And then we're going to start to find, just like the reflection in the lake becomes clearer the less rain there is, the things we want to learn and investigate about ourselves become clearer the less distracted we are. Does that make sense? Hopefully. If it doesn't, that's also okay, because this is kind of new, right? But the way that we start to relax our mind with meditation is usually with breathing meditation, which is probably something that you've heard of. It's becoming pretty common, which is pretty cool. But breathing meditation, all we're going to do is focus on our breath exclusively, so exclusively that the other thoughts that are usually kind of bouncing around saying like, hey, pay attention to me, they're going to start to fade away just a little bit. They're going to start to fade away. And then when we notice that our attention has drifted and is focusing on something other than our breath, we're going to be like, not right now, and we're going to bring our attention back to focusing on breathing. Right? That's breathing meditation. And that's what it's really just clearing away some of those raindrops that we were talking about with that lake analogy. And you've kind of experienced something like this before. If you've ever felt in the zone doing something, super plugged into something at work maybe, so much so that you lose track of time, you don't hear the noises that are normally really annoying to you. Exercising is a good one, right? We're so like in the zone running that we're like not noticing the sound, or like all these things that are normally super apparent to us, they fade away. It's very interesting, right? And what happens is our mind starts to relax a little bit. So that's what we're going to do right now. Brief, about 5-minute breathing meditation, which is really all the maximum that I would suggest starting with if you're new. A lot of times people who are new to meditation feel like they have to meditate for like an hour or something. No, that's crazy. Don't start doing that. Let's start simple. Let's start with something manageable that we can commit to, right? That's the most important thing. So we're going to do about 5-minute breathing meditation. And instructionally, it's quite simple. Like I was saying before, focus on your breath. I'll guide it. You listen to what I'm saying. And then when you notice that your attention has drifted, maybe it's thinking about something that happened earlier, something that's coming up later in the day, we're just going to be like, not now. Bring our attention back to focusing on our breath. The goal of meditation is not to never get distracted. It's to notice when we're distracted and be able to guide our attention back to what we want to focus on. In this case, our breath. And then later we're going to talk about how we can use some other things besides our breath as like what they call meditation objects. All right? Does that sound good? Any questions before we get started? Don't feel the need to get all your questions out now. I'll be around for a little while. This is also a good time to let you know that our meditation later that we're going to do, specifically on how to get creative when we're having a busy day, involves taking a sip of water. So make sure you have water at some point. Don't have to go right now. I'll give you a little time after we're done with this breathing meditation. Just go get it doesn't have to be a lot of water, just a little bit, in a glass or cup or something, some sort of container. Don't just leave it sprawled out on your desk. Okay? All right, let's do a little breathing meditation. So you can sit comfortably If you're laying down, that's also fine. If you're in a chair, fine. Cushion, fine. Doesn't matter. None of that matters. Just be comfortable, right? We want our body to be comfortable. That way we can work on getting our mind comfortable. So just sit comfortably. Go ahead and close your eyes, and you can listen to what I'm saying, follow along. It's going to be about a 5-minute breathing meditation, okay? Whenever we start a meditation, first things first, we check in with ourselves. How are you feeling right now, in this moment? Are you happy? Are you sad? Are you tired? Are you excited? Nervous? Neutral? Whatever it is, does not matter. All that matters is you begin to notice what your mind feels like. This is called mindfulness. Being aware of what your mind is up to moment to moment, so you can skillfully respond. So how do you feel in this moment? And having checked in, you can now turn your full attention to your breathing in and out of your nose. Very gently, very naturally. You do not need to take big, deep breaths or forcefully exhale. Just breathe as you normally would in and out, following each in-breath and each out-breath in its entirety. Breathing in and out, and allowing yourself to relax. Allowing yourself to enjoy breathing in and out, very gently, very naturally. At some point, you may notice that your attention has drifted and is no longer exclusively focused on your breathing. Whenever you notice that this has happened, just gently guide it back. Guide your attention back to following each in-breath, each out-breath, enjoying each in-breath, enjoying each out-breath. Breathing in and out very gently, very naturally. Feel yourself begin to relax. Keep bringing your attention back to your breath as many times as you need to. This is meditation. You are meditating right now. You are training your mind to relax, to be calm, to access peace. And you're doing it all on your own, with nothing other than your breath. You can do this whenever you need to, whenever you want to. How wonderful. So just continue breathing in and out, following each breath, enjoying each breath for a little while longer. Okay, and when you're ready, you can open your eyes. How'd that go? Maybe it's your first time. Maybe it's tough. It's hard to focus on one thing. That's what meditation is. Meditation is all about focusing on one thing. And it's very interesting because when we start meditating, we start to realize how little we focus on one thing. We are very good at multitasking. Very good at multitasking. Nancy, lovely as usual. Thank you. Thank you for being here, Nancy. So great to always see you. Thank you. It's so wonderful to have so many people come back each week. It's really great. I'm glad it was enjoyable. If that was difficult, this should not really come as a surprise because I don't know how often you've done this, right? And just like driving was not always easy for you or didn't always come naturally, you had to work at it. This is going to take a little time. It's going to take a little time to become familiar with doing this, right? Focusing on your breath, focusing on one thing at a time, right? Is there more than one way to breathe? Through the mouth, nose, shallow breaths? Very good question, Joseph. So traditionally in meditation, it is taught to breathe through your nose, in and out. I'm going to tell you that doesn't really matter, okay? If you normally breathe in through your nose, out through your mouth, do that. If you normally breathe in through your mouth, out through your mouth, just do that. The goal here is to eliminate your mind thinking about things. So if you never breathe in through your nose and out through your nose, right? Then you're going to be thinking about that, right? Oh, I'm not doing it. I just breathe through my mouth. Oh no, we don't want that. We want you to just relax and to focus on one thing. So really it doesn't matter, but I teach it that way because that's traditionally how it's taught. And that's how I breathe, so it's easy for me to teach that way. But you can extrapolate this and breathe the way you normally would. Really, the goal here is to just eliminate the amount of chatter in your mind. So if trying to force yourself to breathe a certain way is creating chatter, then let's do something a little more natural. Great question. Really good question. Thank you. So this is going to take time to learn, right? The more we do this, the more familiar we become with doing this, the easier it's going to become for us to settle our mind, to stay with our breath longer, to relax, to clear away those raindrops. And we're going to start to notice ourselves becoming relaxed, becoming more calm in this moment, right? And using your breath is a really cool way to start doing this because you always have your breath with you, right? You can do this whenever you want if you get good at using your breath as a focal point for relaxing yourself, which is really kind of empowering that you're able to relax yourself even just a little bit with nothing other than your breath. Cool, right? Any questions on breathing meditation? This is another good time to remind you to go get a small glass of water or tea, though if you have not made tea yet, it might take too long to brew and steep in time for the meditation. So maybe let's go with water. But just a small glass of water, and you'll see why we're gonna use it in our next meditation. It's gonna be a good one, fun. All right. So go ahead and go grab that. And if anyone has any questions in the meantime, I'll answer that. Just give people like a minute or so to grab water. Hopefully that's enough time. I'm going to drink all mine before the meditation. It's going to be a problem. Okay, so when we think about meditation, right? Normally, we think about sitting down on a cushion, closing our eyes, breathing, right? Pretty much what we just did. That's what we kind of think of as meditation. Like, oh, I'm super relaxed, right? But meditation is really all about focusing on one thing so exclusively that other things start to fade into the background, right? The other things we want to fade into the background are all of our worries, right? Our anxieties and our stress. it creates a sense of calm, right? So while normally, or traditionally, I should say, we do meditation by sitting down and breathing, right? Or contemplating things. We can change what is called the object of our meditation, right? So when we think about an object, we might think about a like tactile object, right? But in this sense, object is just what is the object of our meditation? Like what are we using as our focal point, right? So normally we're using our breath. If you've been coming here for a while, we use our breath a lot, right? Or sometimes we'll focus on other things, right? Focus on how we last week we focused on how our legs felt, like in the chair. We did like a body meditation, right? So we can change what the focal point of our meditation is, and it's still meditation, because all meditation is focusing on one thing so much that other things start to fade away, right? So meditation is not just reserved for sitting down in a chair, right? We start using our breath, but we can change the object of our meditation, right? So as long as you're focusing on something and then returning your attention to it, essentially you're practicing meditation. And this is really helpful to know, because sometimes, maybe a lot of times, we are very busy, too busy to meditate, to like formally meditate, sit down for 5 minutes and do a breathing meditation, right? Maybe you're really busy and you don't have time for that. That is a very reasonable thing to be going through, right? Yeah, sometimes we think we don't have time. We might have a little time, right? Maybe we don't have like the mental time. We're just like all over the place. But regardless, there are other ways we can start to build a meditation routine into our already existing routine, right? So what we don't want to do is not meditate. Be like, I'm too busy to meditate. Usually what happens is I'm too busy to meditate, and then we don't sit down and meditate, and then we don't do anything else. And so we're not practicing meditation. And so this is not becoming familiar to us, focusing on one thing, right? Being present. It's really what we're getting at. So we're going to go over some ways to kind of keep up your meditation routine by transforming daily activities into a meditation practice, right? And you do not need to do all of these. Maybe pick one. If you're feeling ambitious, you could throw a couple in. But I'm going to give some examples that I think are good and helpful, that are kind of a little creative. Maybe it falls out of what we normally think is meditation, right? So the most common departure from traditional meditation is when we're using movement, right? And this is really kind of hones in on the core of yoga. So I think, I'm not a yoga expert, right? I will never profess to be, but yoga is tasking you with being present with your movements, right? You're going through specific movements. And the idea isn't to go through these specific movements and think about, what am I going to do for dinner later? Somebody said something at work to me that I didn't like. No, you're supposed to be like super plugged into the movement, right? You're supposed to be so plugged into the movements that you start to what? Relax. You're so single-pointedly focused on the movement of your body that all the other chatter in your mind is starting to fade away. That's meditation. So yoga is a form of meditation. We have to kind of do the onus. We have to, like, there's an onus on us to like do that, to be present. Being present is key for yoga. Yes, being present is key for meditation, right? And yoga is meditation of the body, movement, meditation of movement, right? So if you do yoga, great. We can use movement as a meditative practice that's not yoga, right? So maybe you don't do yoga. You really don't have an interest in doing it, or you don't have time to go to a yoga class, or now they're so accessible on YouTube and stuff, but maybe you don't have time or you don't want to. We can use walking as a meditation. Walking meditation is actually quite common. So maybe you pull up to work, right? And you get out of your car and you have to walk a little bit to the door. Oh, great opportunity to do a walking meditation. You can build this into your routine. So what I will do with a walking meditation is, normally when we're walking, we're thinking about all the stuff we're going to have to do when we're going to work, right? Or our mind is off somewhere else. But what if you're able to really focus on how your feet feel, pressing against the pavement, pressing against the grass? Does it feel different on pavement and grass? How does your foot feel as it's pressing into the shoe? Does it hurt? Is it comfortable? Like, can you stay plugged into each step from your car to the door of work? If you can, or if like you're doing it and then you notice your mind drifts and you bring it back, you're meditating. You're doing a walking meditation and you're training your mind to be present and to be able to focus on one thing. Meditation is about training your mind to focus on what you want to focus on instead of what it wants to focus on. Normally our mind is choosing what we want to focus, choosing what we're focusing on. And we're like, okay, now I'm happy. Now I'm sad. Now I'm going to think about this. Now I'm going to think about that. So this gives us empowers us to choose, right? So, or maybe you take a walk during lunch break, or you're like walking to the bathroom or something like that. These are all great opportunities to do this, right? We can fit this into our day. We're already doing it. We're doing a lot of walking, right? It also doesn't have to be walking, right? There's other types of movements. Maybe you're sitting at your desk. How do your feet feel on the floor? How does your arm feel as you lift it slightly up and down? Don't be like flailing in everyone in the office will be like, what are they doing over there? But like, you just do a little movement. Oh, how does that feel? Resistance, right? How does my arm feel? Does it hurt? What about your fingers gently tapping against the desk? The sound they make. Interesting. How does it feel? Like, all of this is we're learning to be present. We're learning to choose to be present in the things that we're doing. This is a meditative practice, right? So that's a way we can use movement, right? And there's a lot of other ways we can use movement to meditate. Like, you can get creative with this. You can get as creative as you want. So when I'm teaching this, I as a starting point, because everyone connects with something differently, I like to give some examples using our five senses. We're going to go over the five senses. Maybe you haven't thought about them in a while. So we can use our senses as a method of transforming activities into like a meditative practice. So taste is a really good one. Mindful eating. Maybe you've heard of that. Probably like a million articles have mentioned it, right? So normally when we eat, what's happening? We're not thinking about eating. We're thinking about something else. We're thinking about something that happened earlier, something coming later. We're not totally plugged into eating, usually. Maybe sometimes we are, and then we're like, wow, this food's amazing, right? So we can take a meal or a bite of a meal, and we can transform this into a mindfulness practice. We can transform this into training ourselves to focus on something single pointedly, to meditate on eating. Let's say we're eating a piece of fruit. How does this piece of fruit feel in my mouth? Is it cold? Warm? What does it feel like? How does it feel like to chew it? What does it feel like to swallow this piece of fruit? Right? We're going to do this with water. That's why I asked you to get a cup of water. If you're just joining us, we're going to need a cup of water for our mindful drinking that we're going to do. But you can do this with water or food, and it's a really cool way of starting to notice some sensations about eating and drinking that you might not have noticed before. This is the beauty of being present. We start to notice things that normally just kind of go right over our head because we're just not there, right? We're just not there. Maybe you start to find some little joys in focusing on eating, right? And at the same time, not only are you finding some interesting joys about eating, you're training your mind. You're training your mind to focus on one thing. You're training your mind to obey you, basically, to obey what you want it to do, right? You're going to focus on eating right now. Right? That's what you're going to tell your mind. Right? What about smells? We could smells is a funny one, right? I've mentioned this before, but I had a student who I work with pretty regularly, and he was telling me that he was at a lake meditating, and all he could think about was how the water smelled. And I was like, "Whoa, that's so cool!" Right? The smell of water. Do we ever think about the smell of water? Sometimes, maybe we're at the beach, but not normally. We just drink a glass of water. We don't really think about how it smells. But water has a smell, and we can start to plug into that. And maybe we can start to find some appreciation in the smell of water, or the smell of the air as we're walking, or the smell of a candle, right? Normally we have a candle on, and for a little while we're like, oh, that smells nice. And then we go back to doing something else, right? What if we really focused on the smell of a candle for a little while? The sensations of the air moving in your nose as you smell this candle, right? What kind of feelings does this smell evoke in you, right? This is like being super plugged into smelling a candle. That's meditating, right? That's training in meditation. Or the smell of cooking food. Maybe you're a good cook. Take some time to appreciate the good smells that you're creating in the kitchen. I'm not a good cook. So that one's not for me. What else? We've hit 2 senses. What about hearing? Like auditory, right? Listening to music. That was a good one. A lot of us listen to music. Oh, here we go. Erica, I have been inhabiting my body with dancing, and that feels super meditative. Feeling how every joint, tissue, muscle, and cell expresses the movements. Brilliant. Mind-blowingly brilliant, Erica. You're meditating on movement, right? You're meditating on dancing. Now, sometimes we're dancing and we're thinking about something else. Oh, I don't know. I was going to use an example, but I can't think of anything cool. But sometimes we're dancing, but we're thinking about, I'm getting kind of hungry, man. We're not thinking about dancing. But what you're doing is you're completely plugged into dancing. Doesn't it make dancing more enjoyable? Right? Look at all the things you described. You're noticing these things about dancing that normally you might not notice, right? There's a lot of people who dance that won't have that experience, right? So what you're doing is you're using an activity, empowering too. Yes, absolutely empowering, because what you're realizing is that you can transform the things that you do into a very peaceful, therapeutic, calming, beautiful experience, right? And you're doing that with your mind, right? That's your mind doing that. Your mind is paying attention to dancing. And so your mind is connecting with dancing. That's a really wonderful example. Thank you for sharing. I'm also not a great dancer. I'm probably a better dancer than I am cook, though. So what about music? So when we're listening to music, all right, it's Sue's birthday. I got to go to Sue's question. Yes, I meditate to blues music, which I enjoy since heart chakra activation, in particular Stevie Ray Vaughan, Albert King, Joe Bonamassa. I also love blues music. I'm probably not as much of an aficionado as you, but I really do enjoy blues music. And it doesn't matter what kind of music you like, right? Music can be a really great way to meditate, right? Now, sometimes, a lot of times, when we're listening to music, we're doing other things, right? We're multitasking, right? We don't want to multitask when we're meditating, right? So a lot of times we use music as background noise, which is cool, right? I like to work with music, makes us kind of feel happy. We like music. But have you ever just listened to music without doing anything else? Can you go deeper? Have you ever thought about how the individual notes of the song make you feel? Right? We can get really deep with using music as a meditative practice merely by totally plugging in to music, the sounds that we hear, right? So maybe if you love music, that's a really good one for you. That's a really good one for you, Sue. Or we can use the sounds outside if we're walking, birds chirping, right? Normally some of the birds are usually chirping, aren't they? Right? We don't always hear them, right? Sometimes we're thinking about a bunch of other things. Well, what if we made a point to, on our walk, we're going to listen for the birds chirping. We're going to pay attention to the pitch of the chirp, right? Is it a long chirp, a short chirp? Is there multiple chirps, right? We're really plugging in to the birds chirping, right? We're single-pointedly focused on the birds chirping. And when our attention drifts away from the birds chirping, we're like, nope, let's get back to the birds chirping. That's meditating on a sound, right? Sounds are real. So we talked about this earlier about how, like, removing the raindrops of the lake, and how, like, all of our thoughts that are like normally bouncing around start to fade away when we're really single-pointedly focused. I feel like sound's a really good one, right? Because we hear sounds all the time. There's sounds everywhere, bouncing around all over the place. But when we're totally plugged into something, those sounds start to go away, right? I used to work in an open office, which was very noisy. But when I was plugged into work, I didn't hear any of the conversations that normally are like really bothering me and really distracting. So sound's a really good thing to pay attention to. It's a really good indicator. Okay, I like this example. So while listening to the music piece, is it still considered meditating when you're trying to figure out the key it's in or discern notes? Yes, 100%. Like that is a level of, and look, not everybody might have some of the musical training to know, like, oh, this is an A, this is a B. But if you are able to kind of plug into that and really think about that, yes, 100%. That's super meditative. That's like you're being super present with the song to think about that, right? And what's going to happen is all the other things that are normally bouncing around your head are going to fly away a little bit because you're trying to figure out what notes are in here. It's an investigation, right? That's called contemplation. Great. Emphasis on figuring it out. Yes. That's like a contemplative meditation on music. Really, really cool example. Thank you. All right. What about sight? Sight's a good one. Now, when we meditate, we close our eyes, right? Because we're trying to focus on our breath, the sensations of breathing. And sometimes our vision can distract us when we're looking around. But we can use our sight as a meditative practice as well. Watching a bird fly. Sometimes we're like, oh, there's a bird, right? And then we go back to thinking about something somebody said to us, right? What if we looked at the bird, we followed its entire path, watched its wings flap. Wow, it flaps its wings so fast and then it glides for so long. We're really plugging into this bird flying. Other things are going to fade away and we're going to start to really enjoy watching this bird flying because we are single-pointedly focused on the bird. We're present with the bird flying. Clouds passing by. Another good one, right? Trees blowing in the breeze. Another good one for sight, right? Or even, doesn't have to all be nature, right? What about looking at your hand? Looking at artwork closely, says Joseph. Beautiful example. Looking at artwork very closely, very intently. How does this make me feel? Isn't that interesting? We're looking at something and we're feeling something, right? Like it's two different things, but there's a connection there, right? We're really plugged into that. Sometimes we might be passing by the art gallery and we're like not looking at the art, really. We're like, oh, okay, all right. We're not there. We're not meditating on it, but we can transform anything into a meditative practice, right? Maybe you can't go to an art gallery. What about looking at your hand? You ever look at your hand? Probably every once in a while, right? But have you ever like really looked at your hand, right? Noticed all the different lines, the different patterns in your palm, calluses you might have. I'm just describing my hand. How my fingers are shaped. My middle finger is shaped differently than my ring finger. Interesting, right? How my hands feel as I move them. Like these are all really easy ways for us to, even if we're sitting at our desk at work, right? Again, you don't flail your arms in the air. Just do this covertly, right? Moving your hand, right? What about tactile? Brushing your teeth. I love using this example for doing like a mindful practice. Like how does the bristles feel on your teeth when you're brushing your teeth? It's like a mundane kind of practice. Normally when you're brushing your teeth, you're thinking about literally everything other than brushing your teeth. What if you thought about brushing your teeth? What if you transformed brushing your teeth, that quick 2 minutes, into a meditation practice? What if you set an intention? I'm going to focus on the sensations of brushing my teeth. I'm going to focus on brushing my teeth. You might start to enjoy or notice some things about brushing your teeth that you hadn't noticed before, because usually we're just doing it very mindlessly, right? Or showering is another good one. When we're in the shower, our mind is thinking about everything, right? What about using that opportunity to feel the water on your skin? How does the water feel? It hits my shoulder, as it hits my head, as it wets my hair. My hair is now dripping, right? Like all of these, like we can totally plug into our shower, right? And we can transform our showering into a meditative practice, training our mind to focus on one thing. I used to do at work touching the keys on my keyboard. This is a pro tip for me. This is a great way to look busy at work, right? You can just kind of like, dink around with the keyboard. You're not even really typing anything, but everyone's like, oh, they're busy at work. You're actually not. You're meditating. You're focusing on how your fingers feel on the keyboard. All right? Good tip. All these things that we're talking about, and there's literally a million more. There's infinite, right? There's infinite ways that you can transform the things you're already doing, the things you already enjoy doing, into a meditative practice. And this is going to help you. This is going to help you see benefits of meditation quickly, because the goal here is not to come here once a week, spend an hour doing a breathing meditation, and then leave and never think about it again. The goal is to train in meditation so you can use this in your life, so it becomes a productive tool for you. So if we start to already do this by taking some of our activities that we're doing and turning it into like a meditation practice, well, we're well on our way to really benefiting from meditation, benefiting from learning how to be present, right? And it doesn't have to be anything crazy. Pick one of these things, right? Or, we had a lot of great examples from you guys, things that are meaningful to you: music, art, dancing. Pick one of those things and see if you can use it as like a meditative practice. All right. Okay. Any questions on this? Good time to get water if you haven't already, because we're going to do a little mindful drinking. I don't know. Everyone calls it something different, but we're going to do a little meditation on water. All right. Unfortunately, I can't drink water while I'm doing this because I need to talk. So I'll drink now. Kristen, excited for this. The hype train. Okay. So what we're going to do, I'll explain it. That way it's not like as weird. Is we're going to do a breathing meditation just like we did before. And then we're going to meditate on water, right? We're going to use our senses to really plug in to the water, the glass of water that we have, or tea or whatever, right? So I'll guide us through this. All you have to do is pay attention to what I'm saying and follow along. And at some point, I will ask you to take a sip of water, right? So you can open your eyes for that, lest you spill the water all over your very expensive internet device. So you can open your eyes to interact with the glass of water. I need to do that as a warning. All right. So we're going to do this with water, but you can do this with food. You can do this with getting dressed in the morning. Like, you can do this with anything. It's like, make it fun. Be creative about this, right? Okay. Ready? Everyone's got water? I've said water so many times. Okay. Sit comfortably. Relax. Go ahead and close your eyes with your water in decent arm's length. Don't have to run to the kitchen. And pay attention to what I'm saying. We're going to do a little breathing meditation, and then we're going to do a mindful drinking meditation. Okay? So once again, let's start by checking in with ourselves. How are you feeling now? Different than before? The same? Whatever it is, we're just noticing. Noticing how we're feeling, being present with our mind and how our mind feels in this moment. And having checked in, you can once again turn your full attention to your breath, breathing in and out, very gently, very naturally. Following each breath in, each breath out in its entirety. And if your mind drifts and starts to think about something other than your breath, just gently guide it back. Guide your attention back to breathing in and out, allowing yourself to relax. Breathing in and out very gently, very naturally. So as we plug into our breathing, as we allow ourselves to be present with each breath, you may notice things about breathing that you hadn't noticed before. Some sensations, perhaps. How the air feels cool on the tip of your nose as you breathe in, and warmer as you breathe out. Your shoulders rising and falling with each breath, your body moving with your breath. You're beginning to enjoy breathing. You're beginning to notice some of the little joys that come from focusing on your breath as you breathe in and out very gently, very naturally. So while we use our breath to meditate, while this is very common, we can choose anything as our meditation object, as the focal point of our meditation. We can choose what we want our mind to focus on. Right now, we're going to focus on a glass of water. So you have a glass or a cup of water or tea in front of you. Put your hand on the glass. What does it feel like? Is the glass or cup cool? Is it warm? Room temperature? What kind of material is the glass? Is it smooth? Is it rough? Maybe you can pick up the glass slightly. Is it heavy? Is it light? What about smelling the water or the tea? What does it smell like? Does it have a smell? Does it smell refreshing? What feelings come up? How do you feel when you smell this water? Can you sense the coolness or the warmness of this liquid by smelling it? Now you can open your eyes for this part. Look at the glass of water. Can you see the water clearly? What does the water look like? Is it cloudy? Is it clear? How full is the glass? Is the water rippling or is it still? What feelings come up as you look at a glass of water? Now I'd like you to take a sip of the water. Don't swallow it just yet. Just take a sip and let the water sit in your mouth. How does the water feel in your mouth? Is it cool? Is it warm? Can you feel it moving effortlessly, flowing from side to side, grazing your gums, your teeth? What does water feel like in your mouth? Go ahead and swallow that sip of water and pay attention to how it feels, how your throat moves to swallow the water, the coolness or the warmness of the liquid in your chest, in your stomach. This sip of water is nourishing your body, allowing your body to live, to thrive. How wonderful. Maybe there's a sense of gratitude for this little sip of water. Go ahead and take another sip of water, this time on your own. Investigate it. Investigate what water feels like as it's in your mouth, as you swallow it. Whatever feelings come up, whatever emotions are evoked from this exercise, just pay attention to those. Pay attention to how drinking water makes you feel, how you feel drinking water. Are you finding drinking water to be more enjoyable than normal? Okay, and when you're ready, you can relax, stop drinking water. How was that? It's kind of a cool thing. It's kind of cool because drinking water is something we do a lot. Or maybe it's not water, but we drink liquids a lot. But we don't really ever totally plug into drinking that beverage, right? And there are little joys in drinking. There's like sensations and feelings and emotions and a million things that we can get out of drinking a glass of water if we only just single pointedly focus on drinking a glass of water. So the goal here is really two parts, right? Is to start to build up. Turns out I like water. I know, right? Maybe you never liked water, but now you're like, oh, this is actually pretty good. That's great. So the two things we're trying to get out of this activity, right, is to realize that we can train in meditation without quote unquote formally meditating, sitting down, focusing on our breath or whatever. If we don't have time to do that, fine. Pick one of these other things that you do during your day and see if you can creatively turn it into a meditative practice, right? And then second, a byproduct of doing this with activities is you may start to notice that you enjoy these subtle things that are coming up from the activity. You start to enjoy the activity more. You're finding it interesting, right? Your mind is engaged with the activity, and so you're noticing some of the beauty that comes from watching a bird fly, or watching a tree blow in the breeze, or hearing music, or drinking water, right? So this is a good little homework assignment. Pick something that either you think will be manageable for you or is meaningful to you, and see if you can turn it into something more than what it is now, something meditative. See if you can transform it into something that's helping you train your mind to relax. Mindful eating is a unique experience and maybe healthier. That's really interesting. Well, you know what's cool about mindful eating is because, like, when we think about eating, we are very aware that it's nourishing our body, right? I mean, unless we're eating bad stuff, which I do a lot, right? But food nourishes our body, right? We're aware of that. Does food nourish your mind? What if you turned eating into a meditative practice? Now it's nourishing your body and your mind, right? So we can start to take these things that we don't really think of as, traditionally helping our mind, and we can turn them into ways of helping our mind. And meditation is all about recognizing how powerful your mind is in terms of being happy and finding joy in the things that we do. So this is a really cool practice to start to see that in real time, to see the real time benefits of meditating, right? Thanks, Joseph. It was great. Great point. Any questions on this? It was a lot. It was a long one. You guys stuck with me. I'm happy. So if a question does come up, you can always email me. And this is the point where I put my email into the chat. Oh, I almost wrote Keith at Keith. That's not going to do anything. Keith at meditationbreaks.com. And I just said it in case you're not looking at the chat. Keith at meditationbreaks.com. You can email me at any time. Ask me any questions about meditation or anything else. It's fine. And if you did enjoy this class, we do these every Wednesday, so come back. It's a different topic. I don't always know what I'm going to do. It's usually last minute. But I try to do something new each week, or a different spin on something that we've talked about previously. So come back, right? Joseph, good idea to focus on mind and intersection with sensory experience. Yeah, there's a connection. There is a connection, and we can choose to look at it. Jason, is there a best way to nudge our minds back to breathing while meditating? So, really good question, right? Sometimes this is very difficult, especially if the thing that's distracting us is causing anxiety or is like really weighing on us, right? So what I like to say to myself is not right now to the distraction, right? Because what this is kind of getting at is I can focus on this later. I'll deal with this later, but not right now. So in my head, I'll be like, not right now. And then I'll go back to focusing on my breath. And Jason, you might only be able to stay focused on your breath for like 2 seconds. That's totally fine. Maybe you can do 3 seconds next time, right? We can start to build up upon what we've done here. But try using the like phrase mantra, not right now, when you're distracted. I think it's a good combination of like disengaging with it, but not dismissing it. Does that make sense? Maybe. Sue, thanks. Great you pointed this out. I have got the message from others that meditation should be a certain way. This validates our taking time to smell the roses, meditating on the joys of our life. So yeah, so like this is a really good point that like everyone has kind of like a predetermined view of what meditation is or should be or whatever, whether it's sitting on a cushion or I don't know. But meditation is all about training your mind to focus on what you want to focus on, right? Being present, right? And enjoying the things that come along with that, right? It's a really beautiful practice. So thank you, Sue. And happy birthday. Erica, I struggle with eating when I'm more blue, when you're down, or anxious. I want to be better at eating breakfast. Would you suggest trying meditation to encourage me to eat? So what I will say is you can approach this from 2 angles, and everyone's different, right? So Erica, if this is like, if you are determined, if you have made an intention to eat better, or, right, like, or eat breakfast, right? Maybe you don't eat breakfast a lot, right? So you're going to make a promise to yourself, I'm going to eat breakfast because I want to use it as a method of nourishing my body and also nourishing my mind by making it a meditative practice. You can do that, right? So that might be good for somebody. Now, if you skip breakfast a lot, right, I might not start with that, because what is going to happen? You're going to skip breakfast, and thus you skip your meditation. So when I'm teaching these kind of creative meditation activities, I generally suggest that people start with something that they do daily, right? And that doesn't take a lot of effort. So my wife loves breakfast. She's eating breakfast, all right? So that one might be a good one for her. If you like don't normally eat breakfast, this might not be the best starting point. Now, once you like get into the habit of this, you might branch out a little bit and use this to encourage you, to motivate you to eat breakfast, right? So you're going to have to play with that a little bit. It's a really good question. And this comes down to a lot of, sometimes people try to start meditating on the thing they're struggling with the most. And I often encourage them to start meditating with something that comes a little easier to them. Hopefully that was helpful. But everyone's different. So this is something you can experiment with. If it works out, great. If it doesn't, try something else, right? Very good questions. Very good questions. Okay, so I know I've kept you for a long time. Thank you for being here. If you did enjoy this, definitely come back. You can subscribe to my YouTube channel, which is very helpful for me and also helpful for you because it lets you know when I'm going live in case you forgot. I also do one-on-one meditation sessions, or also for work. Like sometimes I'll do a virtual thing for a workplace. If any of that sounds interesting to you, or like, oh, I'm totally into this. This is cool. One-on-one meditation is a really good way of like plugging into your life the things that you want to focus on. This is kind of a general meditation session that we do every Wednesday. So if that is interesting to you, just email me, and we'll find a time and a situation that works. Joseph, thanks. Great session. Thank you. Thanks for being here. I love having you guys here. It's been like kind of mind blowing to have some of you here from like the very beginning of when we started doing this. It's almost like a year ago that we started the channel. And it's been really cool to have you here. And for all the new people, thank you for taking time out of your busy day to learn something new and to be here with me. Sue, see you next week. Happy birthday, Sue. Everyone wish Sue a happy birthday. Thank you guys for being here, and have a great week. Have a great week transforming your daily activities into a positive meditation practice. Okay. Thank you.